Welcome to Restaurant Catering Smarts, your go-to podcast for restaurateurs looking to better operate and grow their catering profit centers. With every episode, you can count on expert advice, innovative strategies, and tasty tips straight from industry leaders. Our purpose is to help your business thrive. So, let's dig in to another juicy episode.
Hello again, I'm Michael Attias, your host of Restaurant Catering Smarts, and today's guest is Jenn Saunders-Haynes, owner and chief catering strategist of Elizabeth Jewell Consulting. With over 2 decades of experience in hospitality and off-premise operations, Jenn is a trusted advisor to multi-unit restaurant brands looking to grow and streamline their catering programs. From menu development to packaging, logistics, and sales strategies, she helps operators create systems that scale and stand out. Jenn brings a unique blend of strategic insight and hands-on experience, and we're excited to have her on the show today. But before we get started, let's take a minute to recognize our sponsor, CaterZen Catering Software. They help restaurants turn their catering chaos into calm. Discover why restaurants trust CaterZen to save them time and increase sales. Go to caterzen.com and sign up for a walkthrough of the software. Now let's dive into this episode of Restaurant Catering Smarts. Hello, Jenn. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you?
Great. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. I get everybody started off with an icebreaker question. So you've got to give me a number between 1 and 300.
176.
Ooh, I think somebody did 178 early. Wow. This is a good one. What's your ultimate travel dream?
Gosh, it's a toss-up. So Bali probably is at the top of the list, and Fiji, I think, is up there too.
They look the same, don't they? Pretty much.
Yeah, they do.
Have you
But
ever
I can't
been?
pick. So no, never been. It's on my bucket list.
So there's a place in Mexico. I'd have to look it up on a map. It's about 4 hours from Cancun. It looks like Bali, but it's a freshwater lake. But it looks just like Bali, and it's closer to get to.
Okay, well, you have to send it to me.
I will send it to you. So you have to put that on your list.
All right, I will.
So let's talk about your history. How'd
Sure.
you get in the restaurant business, the catering? How'd you gravitate towards catering? Let's talk about your background, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, sure. So I did not start in the restaurant industry. I was in the ops world. And fun fact, I was catching criminals. So I worked for a private company that called white collar and blue collar crime. And so I was running operations for them, and I was working very closely with human resources and loss prevention. And a role came about at Focus Brands, now Go To Foods, and it was ops focused in the off-prem world. And so I took my ops knowledge and transferred it to restaurant, doing just ops, and then ops bounced or catering bounced around from ops to marketing and back to ops like it usually does at brands. And my scope expanded, and fast forward, now I've spent 4.5 years at Go To Foods and then 4.5 years at Subway, and now I'm consulting. So that's my journey.
Everybody's got an interest in. I want to go back to catching criminals.
Yeah.
I find that on these podcasts, there's always some interesting fact that you don't expect. There is a client of mine in Fort Lauderdale. It's Adam and Joe Knows Lunch. And I've known her and her father for probably 20 something years. And we're talking about background. She used to be a police officer. I'm like, what? And then she told me like how she caught somebody or something. It was pretty crazy. So tell me about catching bad guys. Was this in a retail operations and you were in loss prevention? And
No, so it was a kind of a background screening investigation firm. And so we did a lot of pre-employment screening. So when you apply for a job, they do your background check to make sure you haven't committed a crime. And then the other part of my job was if people didn't show up for work on Monday and maybe they were in jail over the weekend, we had to kind of help track them down and figure out what was going on. And so, it got a little crazy from time to time.
what was that firm happen to be Background America?
No, it was not.
Okay, because they started out in Nashville, and so I know some people who've worked for that.
Yeah, they're very similar, though. Very similar.
So how soon at Focus Brands did you start focusing on catering or getting involved in
Immediately.
off-prem?
immediately. So my first role was in the off-prem world, and so I was focused on catering operations exclusively. And then that role morphed into a few different things, and then I ended up running the catering operations for Schlotzsky's, which was at one time based in Austin, and then moved to Atlanta. And then because Focus Brands has a portfolio, or Go-To Foods now does, I worked very closely with Moe's and McAllister's on their projects. And so it was very helpful for me to understand how things like supply chain and all that worked cross-functionally, not just with my counterparts at the other brands, but, on a larger scale. So, that prompted the promotions.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a Schlotzsky's question because literally I interviewed someone yesterday who worked at Schlotzsky's.
Okay.
Did you know a guy named Matt Diana in purchasing? Was he there when you were there?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
So I think when they were in Austin, he was
Oh,
head of
okay.
purchasing. He hired me for my first job as a dishwasher in
No
Memphis at a restaurant
way.
called The Loft. Yeah, a very, very small world.
Yeah, no
Our
way. Yeah.
paths have directly and indirectly crossed
Yeah,
over many
yeah.
years.
So I started with the brand when they were in the process of moving from Austin to Atlanta. And
Okay.
so I didn't know many of the people in Austin.
So I've worked with chains, I've worked with mom and pops. I think a lot of people think I want to do catering and I can just take whatever I have and throw it in a pan or throw it on a tray and sell it out the back door. And I guess some people make that work. What do you see as some of the top mistakes people make as far as packaging or putting together the offering as opposed to just saying, oh well, instead of making one sandwich we'll make 20 sandwiches and we'll
Yeah.
plop it here?
Yeah, you should not do that. You should not take your entire menu and put it on a catering platform. And there are multiple reasons why, which I'm sure you know, but for the audience, it creates mass confusion in your kitchen. All of your items that you make in-house are not made for catering. So either from a pricing standpoint or a food quality or food safety, temperature standpoint, they're just not designed that way. And so when you're creating a catering offering, it should really be, okay, what are the items that have good cost of goods that I can make in mass that won't wreck my kitchen from an op standpoint, and that people will enjoy when it arrives at their home, understanding that all of your orders won't be pickup. They won't go straight from your kitchen to the person's table. They may be sitting in a conference room for an hour before they're consumed. So all of those things have to be considered. And then for packaging, the same thing. If you are catering hot food that is supposed to be served hot, you really have to invest into packaging that'll hold that temperature. If you're, and perhaps that's not the answer. Perhaps you're not at a place as a company or a restaurant where you can put your hot offerings on the menu. So maybe focus on something that is that can be served cold or that can be served at room temperature until you figure out your packaging strategy.
When you look at the bigger brands, they have the money to go in and put the beautiful packaging. What can the smaller brands do to compete on that level? Or do you feel like maybe you can't invest in all of it, but here's some core things you should invest in that has your brand on it? And then
Yeah.
when you're doing enough or you grow, where do you think there's a higher ROI?
Yeah, I don't recommend that brands go and invest in fully designed or fully branded packaging initially because it's just not as important as some of the other things that you could do to make money. Branded packaging is beautiful. I designed branded packaging at Subway, so I believe in it. It's a marketing tool. However, if you're just starting out, it's going to be more important to find packaging that keeps your food in its place inside the box. And then you can design other things around the box. And maybe that is investing in a beautifully designed sticker to go on a plain white box or a plain craft box for now, and with or a tamper resistant sticker that you can put on the box, something like that. To get you to a place to where you're making money and you have packaging that doesn't show up with grease stains and that's
Right.
upside down in the box and things like that. So there are other things that you can do.
Oh my God, that is the most annoying thing. I mean, I don't know order catering for myself and we're all remote, but when you order something from DoorDash or Uber Eats and they turn the packaging upside down or they package it where they're holding it like this, but it really should be on its side, and
That's
then
right.
it's all, oh my God, that
That's right.
is such an ick.
Yep. Yep. So if you're just starting out, find packaging that works for whatever food that you're serving. If your packaging can't be fully branded, then figure out what does work, and maybe that's something off the shelf that you can make beautiful with a stamp or a sticker.
Yeah. So obviously working with Subway, largest brand in the world, units, a lot of street cred,
Mm.
right? What made you decide to hang out your own shingle and go work with other, start your own company?
Yeah, so my time at Subway was amazing. I got to do a lot of great work with a lot of great people. When I started at the brand, there was no solid catering program. They were doing catering and had been for decades, but not so much a program. So from revamping the menu to redesigning the packaging, figuring out new ops procedures, launching on Easy Cater, all of these things that we did was really great. And so, after separating from Subway, I took some time to figure out what I really wanted to do. And being able to recreate that for as many brands as possible has really been fulfilling to me. And so, I get to come in, do a little bit of an audit, figure out what works and what doesn't work, figure out some opportunities and how these brands can make money, and use all of the knowledge that I have from being in this space for so long, and move forward from there, not just in the catering space, from the ops space before I got into the restaurant world. And so, it came together quite nicely.
That's nice. I've always told people I'm unemployable, so I had to figure out what to do. I'd get fired. You'd fire me on day one. I like to take afternoon naps. There's not a nap, and napping is not allowed in the employee handbook. So nap on your own time.
No naps.
Yeah. So if I were going to bring you into my operation,
Yeah.
what are the top 3, 4 things you're going to start out, right? Because you've got to sort of diagnose before you can prescribe. So what are the things that you're looking at?
Yeah, sure. So the first thing I ask for is data. So I have my brands fill out a questionnaire, and then we figure out what data they do and don't have. Because ultimately, if a brand does not have data to understand what their sales are, what people are ordering from them, what their product mix is, it's really going to be hard for me to do my job. And so to diagnose anything, we have to start with data. And then that goes into, okay, well, what are you doing today for marketing, right? What are you doing today for packaging? What platforms are you on? What growth have you seen on these platforms? Because maybe you're not on the right platform. Maybe there are things that are available on the platform you're using that you're not taking full advantage of. So, but hands down, having data is the most important thing, and will be my first question in almost every situation.
That's definitely, the numbers don't lie, and
That's right.
gives you something to work from.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, I think, Easy Cater,
Mm.
and so there's a love-hate relationship,
Sure.
right? Because most operators are operators; they're not sales and marketing people. So the
Mhm.
thought of knocking on a door, making a phone call, sending an email, it paralyzes them. And it's nice that you get these orders that come from these third parties, but you're paying a high price.
Sure.
You know, where's your thought process on that? Pro, con, how best to profit from that and not give all your profits away
Yeah.
to the third parties?
Yeah, that's a good question, right? So one, it's not just giving your profits away, but also controlling your guest, and controlling your guest data. That's really important as well, especially in a marketplace. So I would say if you're going to join a marketplace, be very intentional about the marketplace you're joining and understand the what it serves. So when you're joining a marketplace, you're joining because you want to attract the guests that are already coming on the marketplace, and you're not there. So if I want to order sandwiches and I order on Easy Cater or Uber Eats or DoorDash or whomever else, I'm going to go to that website and I'm going to see what's available. I'm not coming to your website. And so when you're joining a third party, understand that you are joining that third party platform to attract guests that are ordering from the third party that wouldn't be coming to you in the first place. And so when you look at it that way and it's a marketing tool, the numbers may still sting, but they don't hurt as bad. I think the other thing to consider is, we talked earlier about the cost of goods. Understand what you're selling in a marketplace. You don't want to sell your highest price items that cost the most to make on that kind of platform because it's just not lucrative, right? And so you want to try not to do that.
Do you recommend designing a special menu for the third parties that might not be available in store so you can control those margins?
That's tricky. There may be some reasons why you wouldn't be able to do that, but I think having somebody on your team that can ask the right questions when you negotiate that contract is going to be important. And that's that's where somebody like me could come in, right? As a consultant, I know what can and can't be done. I know, if there has to be some menu matching that happens, or if I can ask these vendors, do the people that come to your platform expect this kind of food from this kind of brand? And if they do, then it gives us insight onto what we need to put on the platform so we're still competing. And maybe we don't need to have everything. So we want to put stuff on there that competes, maybe something that sets us apart, but that may not mean putting everything on the menu in every case.
I've noticed, having worked with lots of operators over the years, there's really two types of catering salespeople. There's the farmers and there's the hunters. And everybody's a good farmer, right? Friendly, can upsell, good customer support. I think it's very difficult to get people to be hunters.
Mm-hmm.
So, like when you were at Subway, you've got, I don't know how many stores y'all are up to, tens of thousands. How do you get those franchisees? There's always the 5%. They're going to go out and hustle. They were born hustling. They were probably selling, magazine subscriptions and candy bars as kids, so they know how to hustle. But how do you get the other 95% to not just rely on mass marketing or, point of purchase to drive sales?
Yeah.
How do you encourage that or get them to do that?
That's tricky, right? And it was very difficult. And the reality is there are going to be some operators that just won't or don't, right? I think, though, to speak to it in a way that an operator could understand, national marketing is only going to get you so much. A TV commercial or a bounce back flyer is only going to do so much. Catering is a very relationship-based business. And so to hunt, you have to build relationships. And the relationship for catering can't be salesy. It has to be mutually beneficial. And so when you're going to these clients and you're asking them questions and referring them as clients, not guests or customers, it creates a different kind of conversation and dynamic. And so for a restaurant, when you're having that conversation and you're saying, if you get X number of catering sales this many times per week, this could help you drive this amount of dollars, which means that you're going to make your week before your day is even open most mornings. And so instead of waiting for guests to come through the door, this is what catering actually means. And when you break it down that way, it's a little bit easier for them to understand instead of talking at such a high level. It really doesn't make sense, right?
Right.
But yeah, that's the conversation, and catering is special. It's its own business, and you have to it's not just marketing or just ops. You have to do all of it. And it requires all of that. It's not just, having the right promotion or putting something, an LTO on a menu. You have to sell it. It will not sell itself in most cases.
So if I'm just starting out and maybe I don't have the budget to hire a sales rep, what's the first two or three things you're going to work with me on a client on, helping get those sales coming in, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So if you don't have the budget to hire a person, you can always use somebody already on your team, right? So there's every restaurant that I've ever been in has that one person or two people on their team that is very friendly, that welcomes people, that people come in and they greet them by name. That is the person. And if that person can dedicate time, even if they don't leave inside the four walls, what I'll say is during your lunch rush, if a group of people come in to eat lunch, that is a potential catering guest. And whoever you appoint in your restaurant to talk about catering should be the person going up to those tables or going up to those people in line and passing out flyers and offering whatever it is, menus or whatever you have printed, because those are your conversions for catering. That person then is going to go back to their office and they're going to share that information. So I think that's one way to go about it, dedicating one person that's already on your team. If you're going to do something outside of the four walls, the same thing. Focus on, the office building directly across the street. It doesn't take a whole lot. You don't have to hire somebody and put them on a full-time salary. I think starting small instead of something very overwhelming could be beneficial.
I've always been a student of business, looking at what other people do and how can you apply it. Not that everybody takes my advice, especially my kids don't, but you're familiar with Mary Kay Cosmetics, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know if you remember Herbalife, lose weight
Yep.
now, ask me
The
how,
tea,
right?
yes.
Right. So I had heard about Mary Kay Cosmetics, never knew this, that when you're a new Mary Kay rep, you wear the pin upside down. Did you know this?
No, I didn't.
Do you know why they have them
No.
wear the pin? Because most new reps are shy. Like if we're friends, I'm not going to go to you and say, "Oh, guess what? I'm selling for Mary Kay. Can I do a free consultation?" But it gets people to start conversations. Did you know your pin's upside down? Oh yeah, I just started with Mary Kay. Oh really? And then you get a conversation, right? And
That's
I think
right.
I designed something for a newsletter, and then Herbalife was lose weight now, ask me how. And I think the pin I designed, I don't know if any clients ever took me up on it, was cater now, ask me how. So you could get that ambassador in your store to wear
Yeah.
an upside down pin.
Yeah.
And then when a customer says, your pin's upside down, oh yeah, they just put me as a catering ambassador to the store. Where do you work? That way they don't have to just break the ice. The client's
right.
breaking the ice.
That's
and then
right.
they could go. So
Yeah, if you know somebody already is in the market to buy a bunch of something, like I said, if somebody comes into your restaurant and it's clear that they work the same company because they have on the same lanyards or they have on the same whatever, they work in an office. That's no longer a cold conversation. That conversation can be, oh my gosh, do you guys work across the street? Do you go out for lunch every day? Well, we can bring lunch to you. And
yeah,
that's a very easy
or do they
conversation to
bring in
have.
lunch?
Yeah,
Who's in charge?
that's right. That's an easier
Can you make an
conversation to
intro?
have.
So one of your superpowers is building internal alignment from the C-suite down to the shift leader. What's your approach of bridging that gap and, sort of getting everybody playing well together and, playing on the same team and with the same objectives? Because, I think sometimes there's this disdain on the front line, like, they don't know what we're dealing. They're asking us to do this. They have no idea. They haven't worked in a store, and if they did, it's for a TV commercial.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean that's a real thing. I think the other thing Subway afforded me was the ability to work very closely cross-functionally with all of our teams. And so it gave me a little bit of a peek into how the teams operated. And so, for example, um, we created the marketing briefs. We gave them to the marketing team. We worked very closely with them to figure out what was going on for the entire window and how catering played into that. If we were doing something, when we relaunched the catering program, we did a test in over 600 locations. I had to work very closely with the ops team and understand what was happening in the market and understand how the packaging was performing. And so taking a minute to understand the initiatives of the other teams is important. Um, and then understanding what the priorities are as a business is also important.
So if you were going into a brand tomorrow, working with my brand, what are the first 3 or 4 things you're going to do from a marketing standpoint? We put together the packaging.
Yep.
Well, I tell you what, before we get to the marketing, let's talk about pricing and packaging. Are you more of a let them order in bulk, put together packages for them? What's sort of what you've seen works the best? when you help
Yeah.
people put together catering menus?
Yeah, I think it depends, right? And so after we look at the data and we understand if you have a B2C or B2B audience and try to determine some ordering behaviors, I think we can make that determination. Things like average order value is very helpful, especially if we can break down the price per person. We can get to a place where we can figure out kind of how they're ordering, and then develop packages around whatever your guests are doing. And then we can move from there. Um, on the pricing standpoint, again, the menu is going to depend on what is selling. If you have a ton of things on your menu, maybe you don't need them on there, especially if the product mix is telling me that some things just are not selling. So there are things that we can pull to highlight the items that make sense to sell. And then after we do that and we move ahead to, okay, now we have this thing, how do we market it? The next question is going to be, what are you doing today? Right. So if you're sending, are you sending email messages to your current loyalty guests? Are you sending them to your known catering guests? Are those different messages? Are you sending a different message to your B2C and B2B audience? You know, are they going out on certain days, certain times of the day? Are people opening them? Are they opening them and not clicking through? Are they clicking through and not ordering? So, like, all of this data is going to be important because if you're sending things out and people are opening the email but not clicking the link, you have a call to action problem. If they're clicking the link and going to the website, you have a website problem. If they're adding to the basket and not checking out, you have a pricing problem. So,
It's interesting. You and I have different but complementary skills
Mhm.
because I'm definitely more of an emotional work off the hip, gut. And I could tell, did you go to school for like statistics or analytics? Because like I could tell like you probably have all the spreadsheets and all the pie charts and all this stuff. And I'm just like, no, my gut tells me this. I mean,
What's funny is that I made a slide recently for a presentation, and the title of the slide said data, not feelings.
you would you would you would hate working with me because I'm totally, I have a very good sense of things, like a
Yeah,
very good sense, and doesn't mean I'm always right, but like I move quick and I make decisions like that.
yeah, yeah.
And so the numbers, or when people try to challenge me and go, "Oh, well, who did that peer review study?" Let me tell you, I've been on the planet long enough to know my gut tells me I don't need a damn study to tell me what's going to happen here. But if you really want to go down that path, so there is a good, there's definitely a good, there's a
Yeah,
good mix of,
yeah.
what was a former business partner of mine said, everything in moderation, including
Yes.
moderation.
Yes, that's exactly right. And you're right. There are things that I often recommend that I just know, right? I know you should like I know you should not do that. And so
Yeah.
and so although there is not a lot of data about that, you just should not do it. And so yeah, there's a good bit of that mixed in there too, but yeah, it's easier for me to point to the data, especially when I'm working with brands where I'm building trust, right? They don't know me or they know me for recommendation. And so if I can say clearly, here's what you provided and here is what you can expect, it is you know, what is the saying? Over deliver, under promise. So that's what I do.
Yeah. It's, my ADD's kicking in. When you look at AI, right, where do you, well, let me take a step back. Technology,
Yeah.
um, being in the tech space, you get some brands that are just starting to get into catering, but they don't want to invest in the
Mhm.
software to keep up with the numbers, keep up with the customers. What's your thought on that? Do you wait till you get to a certain level and then you invest in the tech, or is it sort of like opening a restaurant? If you're going to be in it, you need a POS system when you unlock the door. So if you're going to be in catering, get catering software to keep up with your catering business.
Yeah.
Otherwise, don't get in it.
Yeah, I am not sure, and maybe this is a feeling and not a fact. I'm not sure how you can operate a catering business without a software of some kind on whatever level to track I don't care if you're using an Excel spreadsheet to track your guests, and understand how they're ordering, you have to have some. It's very hard to build something and then have learnings and grow from it if you don't have a record of what you're doing. So if it's not AI, if AI is not your thing, it probably should be your thing at some point in some capacity, but you have to either have somebody in your team that is tech savvy or be comfortable enough with technology to where you're not falling behind.
Yeah, I tell people, I said, catering has the ability to if you build it, it could double your profits.
Yes,
You don't have to go rent another building. You don't have to hire another manager.
that's right.
You don't have twice as many employees to worry about. And it's funny, you're going to go open a restaurant and you're going to spend $20,000 on an oven. You don't think twice about spending $20,000 on an oven because you think you're going to need it, or you're going to go spend X on this or X on that. So you want something that's going to be the equivalent of opening up a second store,
Hmm.
but you don't want to invest to go in,
Hmm.
right? So if you're going to do it, make those investments
Yeah.
with the, hey, I know I might not need all the functionality today, but if I'm going to build a restaurant, you don't say, oh, when I have enough business, I'll go get a point of sale system.
That's right.
That would be stupid.
Yeah.
That would be
Or
sacrificial.
or if you're opening a restaurant and you know that catering is going to be a part of it, find a POS system that could accommodate a catering functionality. So
Right,
even if you don't have to, if you don't want to go and find something later, find something that can support what you need, and ask the right questions. And again, if you have somebody at your brand that's familiar with catering, you can say, okay, does Toast or Aloha or whatever have something in here that is you can integrate easily, or does it accommodate what I'm looking for? All of these questions, and so you don't get 2 years down the line and you decide to launch catering and your POS system won't do the things you need it to do because it doesn't integrate with
right.
anything.
Well, I think when it comes to catering business, it's like being pregnant. You're either pregnant or you're not pregnant. You
Yep.
can't be
You can't
half
be a little
pregnant.
bit pregnant.
No, definitely not, for sure. Um, I'm going to go out on a limb with all the number crunching you do and analysis. How heavy are you relying on AI to help you in what you do for your clients?
I use AI quite a bit. I use AI in a number of different ways. Um, Definitely for record keeping. So AI allows me to keep myself organized, especially if I'm having multiple conversations with multiple clients in a day. I'm able to use note-taking functionalities through AI to keep track of those things. But also, if I'm doing a good bit of research for something and I want to easily compare the research that I've done, I can drop it in AI and it can compare notes for me and pull out any similarities. I think a cautionary, warning for AI, especially with dealing with catering, is that catering is not new, right? It's been around for a long time. However, the data available for catering is not plentiful. And so when you're using a tool, an AI driven tool, sometimes the data you get can be more restaurant focused. The word catering can confuse AI,
Right.
because we in the industry say catering, but catering may mean something else to guests and clients. And so you have to be very careful about relying heavily on AI to drive everything. I mean, if you're looking for, a marketing ideas or, something like that. Yeah, use AI, right? Help it brainstorm, but it should not be the solution. It should be a resource.
What's crazy, did you do any work with AI voice in any of your, like at Subway
Some
since that's,
testing, some
yeah,
testing. Yeah.
it's crazy how much better it's getting. Like it keeps getting, I know it's getting more adapted in the pizza industry because pizza is very simple, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's ordered a pizza. What size do you want? What
Yeah.
toppings do you want? There's
Yeah.
not a lot.
Yeah.
Catering is definitely more complex because I'm feeding football players, I'm feeding blue haired little ladies in a garden club,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing, delivery, all sorts of things. And maybe one day it'll get there, but
Mm-hmm.
where it's getting and answering, I've done some tests and listening and like, yeah, you can tell it's AI, but it's if choice is talking and answering a voicemail
Yep.
or an AI after hours or when it's busy, I'd rather
Yep.
do that
Yep.
than not know if anyone's going to ever call me back or not.
That's right. My husband was on a call, and he took it on speakerphone. I can't remember who he was talking to, but he was trying to, he was in the phone tree and he was trying to figure out where he needed to be. And he was like, you got to listen to this. And it was an AI voice and it was communicating with him and asking questions like a customer service person would. And he was like, this is crazy. And you could tell it was AI to your point, but it was a very like good experience.
It's getting better and better. We met with an AI consulting firm about some projects, and the guy gave me a phone number to call, and it was somebody they'd done a dermatology. They do Botox and fillers,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So I had it on speakerphone. I was showing a friend, and just for fun, they said, "Oh, how long have you been thinking about Botox and fillers?"
Mm-hmm.
And I threw it a curveball. Oh, for the last 15 minutes. And the AI picked up it was a joke. It goes, "Oh, that's pretty funny." But,
Yeah.
but I'm like, that's crazy
Yeah.
that it knows, because I've got people that I call in call centers. They have no idea I'm telling jokes.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. I mean, it has come a long way, and I can only imagine what will happen in the next 10 years, right?
Well, 5 years ago, I was predicting AI voice was going to take catering orders,
Mm,
and I'm amending that because if you think about it, there's the generations that want to get on the phone and talk to somebody is smaller and smaller.
yeah.
So what I really think is going to happen is it will be AI voice mixed with digital. So
Mm-hmm.
when you go online to place an order, you're going to have, as opposed to a chatbot, it'll be a voice
Mm-hmm.
that'll say, "Hey, Jen, if it recognizes you, hey,
Mm-hmm.
can I help you place a catering order? Yeah, what are you doing? Oh, I'm doing a baby shower for a girlfriend. Oh, great. So are you looking for finger foods? Are you looking
Yeah,
for a
that's
full
right.
meal?" And it's going to guide you, and it's going to click the buttons. It's going to show you the options. It's going to put it in the cart. You're just going to dictate it, right? You're not going to have to
Yeah.
sit there and type and look for things. It's going to intuitively walk you through the whole process. And if you ask a curveball, "Oh, before you put those brownies in there, do they have nuts? I have a nut allergy. Oh, we
Yep.
do have nut-free brownies. Would you like me to put that in there?" Eh, When's that going to happen? I don't know. But that's the marriage of AI voice
Yeah.
and technology with the digital experience, because everybody is just glued to their phones,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
Nobody wants to
That's
pick
right.
up the phone and call unless you have to. So,
That's the other thing I'll say. When we were talking about technology earlier and having the right POS and something to accommodate catering, having a web and mobile friendly version is very important. Like it can't work on one and not the other because you are serving two audiences. You're serving the executive assistant that is ordering from their desk, and you're also serving the person planning the birthday party on Saturday that needs to order from their phone.
yeah, I think it's almost seamless. Like I
Hmm.
probably do as much, I'm not gonna say as much work, but I definitely do as much on my phone as I do on my desktop, maybe even
Yeah,
more. Because right, it's with you 24/7. So
that's right.
at 8 o'clock at night, if there's something I want to get to or book airline tickets or whatever,
That's right.
I don't have to get, before you had to get to your computer to do it. Now it's like, and it's all there, and you have everything at your fingertips.
Yeah, that's right.
So, I know you've got a consultancy.
Hmm.
Tell everybody about it. How do they find you?
Yeah,
And, what are some things they need to consider when looking for a catering consultant? And
sure.
who's an ideal brand that would you would work with that would be a good fit?
Yeah. So my consultancy again is Elizabeth Jewell Consulting. My name is clearly not Elizabeth Jewell, but Elizabeth Jewell was named after my mother and my grandmother, their middle names. My mother and my grandmother taught me how to cook. And so the connection for me for food is that feeling of family and togetherness. And so when I got into the restaurant space, I knew I wanted to stay here because it reminds me a lot of them. My grandma passed when I was a little girl, but I feel like when I eat certain foods, I still remember her being here. And so it was important for me to pay homage to both my mom and grandma so that the company's named after them. But, in our consultancy, we really go in and really help strategize with brands. Our sweet spot is, 100 to 500 units. We can go a little bit higher than that, but that's kind of where we operate the best. Um, and we go in, figure out what the data says. If the data is available, we have a few different models. We can do an audit and kind of provide some operational direction and recommendations. We also provide more of a fractional consultancy where we contract for 3-6 month periods and act as a fractional leader in the catering space to help wherever brands are on their journey. That works really well for brands that don't know if they want to hire a full-time catering lead, if they need somebody to work on with their C-suite to get buy-in or their franchisees. So, I work in that capacity from time to time as well. And then, to contact me, I'm always available via email. It's Jenn with 2 N's at ejewelconsulting.com. You can find me there. I'm always hanging around LinkedIn. So, I have a couple podcasts and webinars and all that kind of thing that people can take a look at.
Oh, very cool. Well, I appreciate your time today. It was a lot of fun, also educational. I like to mix the two.
Fact, not feelings.
No, more feelings, not facts. It's worked for me so far, so.
A little bit of both.
Yeah. Okay. Well, again, thanks so much for being here. And with that, I wish you a happy afternoon.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Restaurant Catering Smarts. For more insights and episodes, make sure to follow along, subscribe, and share at caterzen.com.